these are some of the highlights that you'll see if you go on my resume or my LinkedIn. Okay, I was valedictorian of my high school. I went on to UC Berkeley, where I graduated in 3 years. At one point, I interned at the White House. I also did internships at several big law firms. I graduated from Harvard Law School at 24, and I was working at one of the top big law firms in the world in Silicon Valley, Wilson Sonsini. By all accounts, from the outside looking in, I had won, right? I had made it. I had done it. But there's another side that you don't see on LinkedIn, and you don't see it on my resume. As early as 17 years old, I had trouble with my stomach, feeling like I had intense stomach pain when I was studying for the SAT. During my 20s, most of my 20s, I suffered from a retching sensation where I felt like I was going to throw up all the time, but nothing would end up coming out. I went through all sorts of medical procedures, endoscopy under anesthesia, and ultrasounds, and stool tests, and different medication treatments, you name it, to try to fix this problem. In the end, it was mental health related. We'll get into that shortly. But, I had panic attacks when I was studying for the LSAT in college. I've worked through and I've struggled deeply with social anxiety throughout most of my 20s. There were more than one occasions I can count where I opted not to spend time with other people, colleagues, fellow students, even friends of mine, because I just couldn't bear the thought, and I was just too anxious about it. After working in big law for a few years, I found myself burning out during the pandemic. The overwork had turned me numb. And before I knew it, I felt depressed. I lost joy in all of the little things, and it turned eventually into thoughts of suicidal ideation, telling myself, what's the point of all this? Wouldn't it be easier if we just ended this? These are things that we don't put on our resume. These are the things we don't talk about during commencement addresses, but they're real. And I think anyone in the crowd who's gone through something similar knows just how real that they are. Why? Why did this happen? I've always felt in my life that I've been trying to check all the boxes and do everything right. When I sat there with the diagnosis of severe anxiety and mild depression, I couldn't help but feel disillusioned and disenchanted that the world had somehow let me down. Like I'd been following something my whole life that had turned out to be a farce. And look, it's complicated. First of all, nothing comes for free. Working relentlessly comes at a cost. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure. And if you're anything like me, a stubborn kid who vows to do anything it takes to be successful, then you're sure to have a lot of stress. But that stress has to be managed. In my case, I denied that I was struggling with stress for a long time. I refused to accept that mental health was the problem, since I wanted to prove to myself that I was strong, that I was invincible, that other people may struggle but not me.